Hello, Fantasy Overwatch Above Ground fans. Welcome to the show. I'm happy to inform you that in this week's Overwatch, everything went just as expected. The Washington Justice won their matches 2-0 led by star player Decay. Philadelphia Fusion did not lose to the New York Excelsior, and the Shanghai Dragons did not lose to the Hangzhou Spark. Last, the Boston Uprising continued to struggle. No other news for the week. Thank you.
Just kidding, everyone. The Washington Justice were not so good this week. My personal favorite not top 10 plays of the week here, with Valentine just killing the Justice while they don't even turn around and look at him, and he gets the fastest Echo ult charge I've ever seen. Strange week of Overwatch. Some stuff went as planned and a lot didn't. So for the first time in a little bit, we've actually got some major fantasy implications. So without further ado, let's get to it. I'm going to quickly run down my top 10 transactions for the week as we get some beautiful footage here of some Florida and London, which started off a little bit close. So as I'm flashing up on the screen here, we've got number one transaction, Echo Waiver Addition for Feather. Same thing for Blase, another good Waiver Addition. For number three, start all of your Echo players. Naist, Naga, Choisehwan, Pelican, Danteh. Number four, London is actually startable now. Number five, Daan. Daan is a good waiver addition this week. We'll get into why. Nothing urgent, but if you're hurting at tank, you could do much worse. Number six, we've got the Guangzhou Charge are finally startable as well. Number seven, IDK is a solid waiver addition supports if you're struggling there. 8, Faith is another solid waiver addition at main support. And number 9, Dridro. If this is a week where you're looking for main supports, I would pick them up in that order. And then number 10, sit them, all your snipers. Mykaylee, gwangboong, and heesu's a relative, right? You're not going to kill yourself by having heesu in the lineup, but you could actually do better. So we'll get into the details on these. Let's do it. And what was one of the major themes of the week? Echo players played fantastic. They were really the DPS around which the rest of the matches pivoted. And we finally got to see some solid playing time from Feather. Much hyped rookie, partially on my part. And I'm happy to see he's finally doing well. I've been telling you it's out there as a possibility. Here it is. He's waiver pickup of the week. Going back to contenders, he was one of my 2 favorite Echo players. And I wasn't sure if he or Ivy would get the nod on the hero. And here we are. Feather having a fantastic week. New York having a very hot and cold week. But at least it was hot sometimes, right? So Feather is pickup number 1 for me. We're going to get to Echo players here more in a little bit on number 2 and number 3 as well. So number 2 pickup of the week is Blase. I don't know that I could have told you that Echo was for sure going to be meta this much. And even if so, that Blase would have been a good Echo, but he really impressed me. And I think London actually has some startable players this time around. Although they didn't win any of their matches and they also have an impossibly hard schedule, you know, they could have done worse, and I think they look competent. And that's partially behind Blase having a solid Echo here. So I'm not excited to pick up London players, but if you're hurting, they present some options to you. In that first clip, we saw London really roll Miami behind a really strong dive. They had some really good aggressive dives, and here we get a good point of view on Blase. Just, you can just see the fantasy points popping up over everybody's heads, just raining in the damage. Sticky bombs, left click jazz hands, whatever they're called, and then his laser beam as well. Blase holding his own. Maybe outgunned at times by other really good Echoes, but, he continues to impress as this solid average to above average player. One other point on this London team that I don't want to lose sight of. Yeah, they're kind of rough pickups for now because of how tough their schedule is, but this team might be one Sparker away from looking a lot more competent. If I'm looking at weaknesses on this team, I think Shax hasn't delivered like we hoped he would, and Hybrid has also been kind of what we thought he would be, a far below, if not, bottom tier DPS player. I mean, he's a fine player. It's not like he's terrible or anything, but he's definitely struggling. And Sparker, if he can play to the level that we know he can, I think we have good things in store for the Spitfire where they will get better than they currently are now, where they're actually, you know, a semi-competitive team. So they look to take out one of the biggest weaknesses on their team with one of the best players from British Hurricanes. I kind of like where this team's headed. They also have a tough schedule all around, but for the third stage, it's coming up. More fantasy value to come, in my opinion. Not probably a popular look, but somewhere where you can invest and have some sneaky Royale starters in the future where everybody else is fading this team. I really can't help myself this week. For number 3, we're looking at all of the Echo play. Naga at times looked really, really good. Paris Eternal continued to be somewhat of a gatekeeper team, but Naist as well has been fantastic. So in this particular bout, we see Naist get the best of the Eternal, and Naga gets stuck really hard there, and then dives in and is just really melted by Naist. So in a week where Naga really outperformed what we thought, Naist kind of wrecked him. Here we get some footage of Paris, who really stuck it to the Justice, and part of that was also an Echo diff. We see Assassin, although Onigod gets the final blow, Naga's kind of running circles around him, and then with the other Echo out, he plays the borders of the hero well, dives in, gets some value. He also had some very creative diva bombs throughout the week. So Naga in the last stage, not a lot of value sitting on the May. I've been saying I like his play. I've most loved his Pharah, but in this particular run, his Echo has looked, I'd say it's been above league average. I'm excited for him this stage and glad that my favorite DPS on the Paris Eternal gets a chance to show off a little bit. Really just clean play all around. I mean, look at this. Look at this play. I mean, this isn't something you're expecting from a bottom-feeding European team, right? That's not what we're watching here. We're watching Naga outplay Assassin. And although something was up with the Justice, I mean, part of what was up was this guy right here outplaying Assassin on the hero. Good angles, smart play, and look at those mechanics. Just, disgusting play there. Finally dies, but the fight is already won. So, loving Naga. If he's free, if he's available, go for it. And we'll take a look at stats here in a little bit on how Naga may actually be worth starting over a lot of your other players that you wouldn't really suspect. I've been a little bit hard on Assassin. I do think that he might be a sell high option for someone who wants him off of name value. Choisehwan, I can't help but show clips of this guy. Sorry, I really can't help it. Nice creative diva bomb, aggressive mech call down, good jukes on Flora, who's been on fire with his hit scan play. Give me some more Choisehwan. We're going to throw some Pelican into the mix too. Pelican with I love the creative death from above strategy there. Nice mechanics all around. He was one of my preseason favorites, and it's nice to see his hyper flexibility paying off on a hero like Echo. So the Atlanta Reign looks scary good this week, and one of the reasons why, once again, many reasons that we could attribute this to, I think we saw really good tank play from not even the double shield look, but the Diva Orisa that they were throwing out there. Kai always dangerous on the Ashe, but now that Echo is the centerpiece of a lot of these comps, why not get your star rookie out there and show off just how good he is? I'm realizing that up until this point, I've talked about all rookie Echo players, which kind of crazy to think about. Nice, Naga, Assassin, Choisehwan, Pelican. Holy cow. Let's not forget Danteh. The Outlaws go down 4-6 here, and Danteh pulls Yaki out of the sky and really takes what should be a losing point when the team is down 1-0, and he really runs this one back for the Outlaws. Always impressed with how aggressive Danteh is capable of playing, and if we're talking about pushing limits, he is regularly going down to really low HP and somehow not dying and getting some serious value. And that's even against someone like Yaki too, who really, for how good that player is, especially on the Echo too, it's amazing to see Danteh getting that value. So, both Yaki and Danteh, fantastic play. We'll run through the clip one more time, and we're seeing some serious value out of Danteh. So what does it all mean? Now that I've got stats open here, I've got on the left side, one of my favorite dashboards, raw score for fantasy players. And on the right side, we've got a per 10 rate. Go Jake Rat. So I've got it filtered on DPSs here. And just as a quick reminder, I don't have the exact same scoring as Draft Buff just because they're smarter than I am when it comes to building out these formulas. This is raw fantasy points, not best, best 3 averaged across maps as Draft Buff does. So just know these numbers are gonna be a little bit off, but I still think they're good enough to reflect the general trends. So if we're looking at raw score for the week, you look and count down the list. You've got Naga, Leave, Choisehwan, Onigod, Naist, Shy, Yaki, BQB, Danteh, Pelican, Architect. If I count down, we can keep going. For video watchers, you can see the list here. Echo players dominated this week. And for anybody out there that didn't notice that, this is your chance to be one step ahead of them. And in your next week, pick up Echo players off of waivers, or where you're tempted to start your classic hit scan players, don't do it. Start your Echo players. There's a couple in there. Onigod and Paris really having a strong week overall. BQB, some nutty play that will show off later. Architect play in the Reaper. Obviously, there's a lot that's going on here, but Echo players were dominant, even on the per 10 side of things. I won't read all the way down the list, but pretty obvious that Echo was what won you some fantasy matchups this week. If we go back to the hero compare as well, we see Echo here DPS wise. Of course, your Symmetras always do quite well for fantasy, but looking specifically at this weekend, the Soldier 76s just pump out a lot of damage and also do well. Reaper players do slightly worse than Soldier, and then Echo's right there above the Junkrat, Ashe, McCree, Hanzo, Genji, etc. Even though the Reapers scored well, and even though the Soldiers scored well, there's a lot of Ashe play, and there was also actually a fair amount of Widow play out there. So your hit scan players, although they're not a lot worse than the Echo players, because of how they're subbing out, the Echo's going to get supreme value here. If you could guarantee me that Architect was going to play every map every second on Reaper, I'd throw him in there. We saw some guys with heavy Soldier play do pretty well as well, but Echo's going to be the safe way to go here. If we compare rates, it's also super interesting. I want to pluck out a couple numbers here. Winston is averaging 18.86. Echo is 22.85. Commit those to memory here. 18.86, 22.85. If we change the dates to match last stage and look at the rates specific to those, you actually see some critical differences pop up here. And as much as I can sit here and show you hero numbers and say, here's the average of what they've done, it's going to change meta to meta. So be careful anytime people like me are throwing numbers out at you saying, oh, these are the averages over a long period of time, because those things will in fact change. I can't click numbers here. Give me a second. April 16th was the start of stage 1. It went through May 8th. So when we changed to those dates, Winston was at 20. He was at 1886, and in the previous stage he was up 21. So the Winstons are scoring a lot less. The Echo's 22.32, similar rate but slightly worse. The meta's changed. Winston's last meta were jumping on clumps of people, getting very frequent nanos, and now a lot of times those nanos are going to Echoes, and the battle is a little bit more stretched out. So less value in those main tanks, more value pumped into those Echoes. Kind of just a side note here to beware those main tanks, which plays into point number 4. We saw some rumors that there would be potentially a lot of hog play, and it didn't really pan out, except for Paris Eternal's main tank, Daan. He had a really, really strong week. And frankly, I think he won some of their matches for them. He was part of what allowed Paris to really hang in there and, stick it to the Defiant as well as the Justice. So the main tanks did not score as well as I might have thought, although definitely threw plenty of caution out there saying we weren't sure what the meta was going to be. Daan was the one who actually clicked. Really reined in those points for Roadhog. And if we go back and revisit our stats here once more, we go back date-wise to the current weekend, then we can see just how well the Roadhog scored. So if we get those dates lined up perfectly, and I can click the buttons correctly on air, then we can see Roadhog, 3rd highest scoring of any hero, and there's a huge gap between Roadhog and the Wrecking Ball. So when we go back to and filter off of DPSs and look at tanks, he didn't play the Roadhog the entire time. But raw score-wise, hey, what a surprise. Elevote and Daan, the two top scoring tanks. And even on a per 10 basis, Elevote and Daan both in the top 10. So pretty solid outing from the Eternal. Some good, fantasy bonanzas there. But all in all, Daan having that really strong main tank week. So if you're looking for tanks to pick up, I think he might be your opportunity here. I'm going to take a brief break here for a rather sad play. I want to look at the New York Excelsior. Jonak with the really, really nice sleep onto Choisehwan's blade here. Not a nano blade, but still. Choisehwan gets the 4K here. And as Overwatch League did a fantastic job bringing this replay back to us, Jonak, really, really nice sleep. Fight, saving sleep dart, right around the corner on Choisehwan. Amazing reaction time. What's Yakpong doing? He jumps right on top of the Genji. I don't want to give Yakpong too hard of a time because, this is just kind of one of those goof ups. Things did not go as planned. He screwed up. I think he immediately knew it. But this wasn't the only mistake we saw from him this weekend. And they weren't all so blatant as this one. There were a few instances where he just had some, bad placements. He would miss dives and was unable to find cover quickly enough against the charge. Choisehwan was tearing him up, not just on the Genji here, but on the Echo as well. I just find that he was often surprised by Choisehwan's positioning, took way more damage than he needed to. And as New York was kind of hot and cold this week, I didn't like Yakpong's play. I really like what I'm seeing out of their DPS line. I continue to be a Jonak fan. And Friday, as we look at support numbers, he actually had a very, very solid week as well as an aggressive when he was on the Lucio. Bianca had a much improved statistical performance from what we've seen historically so far this season. Not convinced of this tank line, though. I really want them to be good. I really want Yakpong to have the comeback story, but I think he's holding the Excelsior back right now. While the Excelsior have their ups and downs, the Charge are looking a little bit better. We get a nice combo here where Krong has a creative bomb, Rio has the good follow-up with the monkey, and then you're probably tired of hearing me singing Choisehwan's praises. I think Kariv, Krong, and Choisehwan are all very solid fantasy options this stage. Kaylee and Eileen both subbed in and out a little bit, and Kaylee continues to worry me just a little bit. Haven't been a huge fan of his play, and Eileen's Doomfist was creative this week. I really enjoyed the Doomfist. His other heroes were all right, but overall, I don't see a ton of fantasy value coming out of that second DPS slot, nor the main tank or main support positions. That said, Kariv, Krong, and Choisehwan, their stonks are looking up. Support-wise, if you're hurting, you've got a few options here. MCD played fantastic this week. I really have enjoyed his play so far this season, but IDK was the one here who actually came in from time to time on the Baptiste, supported by MCD's Brig. So although in this particular instance, I think the Spark are in their best form when MCD is on the Ana or potentially on the Zenyatta when that hero is not banned, IDK continues to be a good main support option. And if he's even occasionally going to play the BAP, which he seems to be the preferred BAP over MCD, then that's a huge fantasy boost. I'm going to give a special mention here too to both Faith and Dridro, who had solid weeks. Let me bring up the stats for those two on the support front. And we'll see, not necessarily only at the raw points. It's not like they had amazing weeks. As I mentioned before, Paris are looking incredibly solid this week. Dridro with the solid point totals. IDK. And then also one Friday. Or sorry, not Friday. I take that back. I meant Faith. The F supports getting me here. They were the top scoring main supports for the week. And I can't say that was really expected. IDK, I think, has the most sustainable value going forward here. But Faith, you'll see, had the great per 10 rate. Really dangerous this week when New York was playing, although they had some very short matches that were both a little bit one-sided. So there's some options for you if you're looking for some main supports that you can plug and play. As we get to the bottom of the list, I said sit those snipers. we got a really interesting duel here with gwangboong and mykaylee both on the Widow against each other. And I don't mean to say sit them as in they're bad. I will once again say I'm not a huge fan of Kaylee, and I acknowledge the possibility that he would have big fantasy value in this meta. Well, that was wrong. It was a possibility. Not anymore. Gwangboong as well seems to be coming in as their Widow specialist and doing a real good job at that too. Pops Choisehwan for the first one, Kareev off camera immediately afterwards, and then I love the headshot on Kaylee just as he's popping up out of cover. Sick stuff right there. Unfortunately, Widow's not worth a lot in fantasy, and if gwangboong's going to come in and be their Widow specialist, not a lot of fantasy value there. I continue also to absolutely love the play of, what's his name? Flora. Sorry, excuse me, I'm tired. Flora continues to be the primary hit scan, and we did see a little bit of Ivy as well, but that was for some specific Junkertown strats here. So I still think Flora, Feather are the way to go. Kaylee continues to not be so much an option, and let's get to one last sniper here. Only BQB would find a way to get value on the Widow for fantasy. I know that he didn't play primarily on Widow throughout the week, but he did play a fair bit. And despite that, he was still one of the top fantasy performers again. So the BQB fan club still chanting that he is underrated. Please stop it. This guy, please stop underrating him. He's one of the best DPS in the world. I don't care what anyone else says. He hard carried in one of the best single match Widow performances I have ever seen in my entire life. Way to go, BQB. As we round out the show here, a couple clips I just had to show. Choisehwan on the Genji. I love this play. Let's just, watch this one here. He busts out the blade, gets the Mercy, dives into the ground to get the Diva, dodges gwangboong to get the kill there, double dashes into the Ana, and then cleans up Yakbong. Disgusting play. Choisehwan is, rookie of the year candidate. Charge might, hold him back from getting that just because of their struggles, but let's watch it one more time. I can't help myself. Some of these DPS players on the Chinese teams are just so good. This is why I watch Overwatch right here. So good. Although this particular clip of Shy is on the Hanzo, and I really enjoyed it, I just wanted to show it because I thought it was fun. Shy surprised me this week. He came out on the Echo, and I would have fully expected that to be Architect, knowing how flexible and how good Architect was even on that Hero last stage. What this shows me, up until this week, I would have said Architect is the alpha DPS on this team. As good as Shy has been, he is the backbone of this DPS squad. But when it comes down to it, and you need your hard carry on a certain hero, they turn to Shy. Shy was playing the Echo. So Shy continues to move up my fantasy rankings. I couldn't see Shy ahead of Architect, but now I can. Shy, I showed before, I wasn't the biggest fan of Shy's play on the Tracer. I still think that's a weakness for him. But, man, I was not expecting the Echo play, expecting the Hanzo play. Shy is just so good. The Widow, too. We knew he had a really good Widow. He misses the shot there. Hits the falling one on Ana right in the middle of the head. Hits the Mercy as they're dashing away. Headshot on Mercy. And although he dies, he still lands the headshot on Eileen right at the end there, just not charged up enough. Crazy Widow shots. We knew Shy had it in him to do this, but it's still really fun to watch, isn't it? In case you didn't catch all the APAC games, watch it and weep. Got a tear in my eye for Kareev and Mandy, the support line here. As far as transactions go, that's all I've got for you. Before I do round out the show here, in the closing remarks, there's actually some pretty key news items here that I wanted to go through. Not always a ton that we have here. So some of it's my news, some of it is actual Overwatch news, but I'm going to go through fantasy implications of some moves here pretty quick to this Eileen montage here. Eileen's Doomfist was really fun to watch. First, the Boston Tanks. We kept wondering. The most asked question, I'm so tired of it, was, should I be starting Gibolshi or Punk? And this particular week, unfortunately, the answer is neither. Although Gibolshi played 5 of their 6 maps and should have some fantasy value going forward, because he split that one map with Punk, I don't think he's going to get that full playtime locked down. And frankly, both of them look really good. I think Gabolshi gets about that 75% playtime or so. If they have some close matches where there's a lot of maps, he'll have the value. Punk likely won't, but it's possible. And I think they're going to continue to leech each other's value just a little bit. With Erster having retired, we now have Who Are You picked up by the Dragons. In looking at Who Are You's play last year, was not the biggest fan of his Mei, and even his signature Genji looked a little bit off. I'm not excited about this pickup from strictly a fantasy perspective. I am excited about Who Are You back in the league. I do hope he plays where Erster did not. I'm not expecting it. I think this is a we'll see if things work and we have enough depth that we don't care if he plays kind of move. That said, if he hits peak Genji in a Genji meta, man, that would be a show. Dreamer for the Outlaws came in. He immediately played right away, had the majority of the playtime, but did split with Jangu. And, you know, his Orisa was good. The Outlaws, you know, although they lost their first match to the Reign, they went back and beat Florida. So the Outlaws continue to look really strong despite the tank change. This goes back to some of my initial comments that I think this team is strong on all fronts, especially the coaching. So I don't think Dreamer or Jangu will be startable for the foreseeable future, but one of those things to take note of here. Don't accidentally leave Jangu in your lineup. Speaking of main tanks, Shredlock has retired, and it looks like Changsik will be joining the Titans. And I'm very, very worried on this one for the team. I do not think that Changsik will be an upgrade. I've actually liked Shredlock's play, and I think, unfortunately, the Titans, they've actually been overperforming what I would have expected. I think their coach Flubby has not gotten enough credit for making use of the resources that they do have, which are very limited. Their raw skill is very low, but the team has still been respectable. I'm worried that could go out the window with one specific main tank, Shredlock, out of play here. So very worried that the Titans lose the value that they kind of had for fantasy. We'll have to keep an eye out though. Justice up on the screen here, and obviously Decay is not. Don't know what's going on. I don't know who to start. I don't think Assassin looked great. I think Jerry on the hit scan was actually quite good. I don't know if that Jerry is better than Decay would have been. I don't know. I don't think so. But Jerry is not the weak link here. I think Assassin is. I don't know if Decay can play Echo or not. I don't see any stats or history to support it. He's been flexible enough to play anything. Wouldn't be shocked if he comes in on Echo next week and Jerry's on the hit scan roll. But that said, I have no idea what's going on. Hoping the best for the Justice, and I want to see them return to form. Very last note to end on, and probably the most serious of all, the Toronto Defiant, as of today, have reported 3 positive COVID tests. Logix is very sick in the hospital. Definitely, you know, wishing the best for all of them. This YouTube channel, really stupid. It's a nice getaway from everything that's going on, and it's sad to see COVID creep into COVID sickness and hospitalization creeping into your hobby here. Wishing the Defiant the best. From a fantasy perspective, you know, it doesn't matter. This is stupid. But that said, you're watching this for fantasy advice. Just keep an eye out. Make sure that, you know, your Defiant players are healthy and playing. And obviously, super minor stuff. No one cares about fantasy. This isn't important. I know you want to win your matches. Life is more important, but hey, hope you enjoy the getaway that fantasy is. Awkward transition into the exit here. Best wishes to the Defiant and their team staying healthy. Best wishes to you and your fantasy roster going forward. Hope you had a good week. Hope this advice helps. I feel like it was a long show, but man, was there a lot to cover. I'm gonna go have a drink. Have a good night, everybody.